The first time my father disowned me, I was 10 months old. I mean, what could I have done at 10 months old that deserved my father to disown me? But he did. Well, why don't you leave or why don't you move on? They say, oh, we're going to stay for the kids. But it's a mistake to stay for the kids. You should leave for the kids.
I'm so excited also to be welcoming Sue Caruana.
A couple of weeks ago, Trudy and the rest of us had a meeting. And it was kind of like to talk about how to do this presentation and sort of like giving us tips and tricks. And one of the things that she also mentioned along the way was that we were going to have a clicker. And I just started thinking about this clicker, and so I forgot all of the tips and tricks about doing an icebreaker, because she did say that we needed an icebreaker. But I lost that conversation and I focused on the clicker. I woke up this morning thinking about the clicker, and then you couldn't work your clicker. So I don't have an icebreaker, and I'm just going to go into my story. So with my clicker. So along my life, I've learned a lot of lessons, but today I wanted to talk to you about 5 of the lessons that I learned. I've learned a lot of lessons in my life, but there are 5 that I'm going to talk to you about today. And the first one is, don't stay for the kids, but leave for the kids. My parents had a very bad marriage, a very unhappy marriage, and my mother always kind of like said that she was staying, for me. And a lot of times when you speak to people who aren't in good marriages and you say, well, why don't you leave or why don't you move on? They say, oh, we're going to stay for the kids. But it's a mistake to stay for the kids. You should leave for the kids. Because as a kid who came from a very bad marriage, you learn that being in a relationship or being in a situation where there isn't love or happiness is the norm. Being in a situation where one or other is maybe abusive is the norm, that this is something that we have to expect, that this is something we should live with. So when you stay for the kids, whether you're male or female, I don't want this to be about women being in domestic violence or anything like that. It has nothing to do with that. It's for both male and female. We are teaching our children all the time the basic lessons of life we have learned in those first 5 years as we're growing up as children. So when you stay for the kids, you're teaching the kids to accept something which isn't quite good enough. And so my first lesson is, don't stay for the kids, leave for the kids. My second lesson in life is to learn to let go. And this is super important because shit happens to us all. And you can keep it inside you and in your heart, and this just makes you see the clicker. I went on to, I've had nightmares about this clicker, I've woken up with the clicker. But anyway, so learn to let go. Learning to let go, because otherwise you become a very angry and bitter person. The first time my father disowned me, I was 10 months old. I mean, what could I have done at 10 months old that deserved my father to disown me? But he did. And throughout his life, he wrote a total of 7 wills, where he left his fortune to every Tom, Dick and Harry, including the cats and the dogs, which was fine. But he always kind of, at different degrees or levels, was leaving me out. When he did die, he had dementia. And at that point, my cousin, who was a very very clever lawyer, wrote his 8th and final will, in which she made herself the heir. But in those days, and I think the law has changed, in those days you had to leave the child with a legitima, which was 33% of the total wealth. And so I was entitled to this 33%. Now, my father died over 20 years ago, and at that time, my inheritance was 2.3 million Maltese. What my very clever cousin did was that she billed me for the same amount that I was entitled to. She billed me for schooling, travel, presents, lodging, food, whatever whatever you can imagine, until she came to the full amount of my legitimum. This could have made me somebody very bitter and very angry. And when I found it out, I mean, I had a pretty good idea of what was going on, but when I found out, I thought to myself, I have a choice. I'm either going to let this be something that sits in my heart and makes me angry and bitter, or else I'm going to let it go. Because at the end of the day, it's money. Money comes, money goes. So I decided to let it go. I did try to fight it, I must say. I did go to lawyers. I went to 3 lawyers and asked them if I could go to court and if I would win against her. And all 3 lawyers told me that because of my appearance, I would never win a court case because I had no hair and because I had tattoos. They told me that a judge would think I was all about sex, drugs, and rock and roll. 3 different lawyers. So anyway, so I thought, fuck it. I'll let it go. And I think it was one of the best decisions I've ever made, was learning to let go. So things happen to us all. We all have a choice whether to keep those in our heart and part of us and to become angry and bitter, or to let go. So that was my second lesson. My third lesson is to pick your battles. And every day we face situations where you can have a fight, where you can fight about something, and you really have to pick them. And usually battles are about 3 different things. They're about either control, trust, or recognition. So whatever it is that you're fighting about, whether it's about who cooked, who didn't cook, who shopped, who did the laundry, who didn't, it all comes down to these 3 issues. It's control, trust, or recognition. And you need to ask yourself, what am I fighting for? Am I fighting for control? Am I fighting for trust? Am I fighting for recognition? And I spent many years fighting every battle that there was to fight. And when I learnt about asking myself these 3 questions, I found out that I was always fighting for recognition. I wanted to be seen, I wanted to be appreciated, I wanted recognition. And when I learnt that that was what I was fighting for, I learnt, and I only learnt this very recently, I learnt that, I don't need to fight for that anymore. So when it's time to fight and when you do need to fight, then yes, you do fight. But pick your battles. Don't spend your life fighting. Life's too short. My 4th lesson is go to therapy. We're all a little fucked up. All of us. Some of us may be a little bit more than others, but we're all a bit fucked. There's my clicker again. We're all a little bit fucked. So, I go to therapy, my daughter does, my son does, my partner does, her daughter does, her grandson does. We all go to therapy. And it's the best thing that you can do. Because it's always great to have somebody who is not biased towards you, somebody who is totally independent, that you can go and talk to. Somebody that you can talk to about your childhood or your past or a situation that you're going through. Somebody that you can bounce back off. It took me many years to find the right therapist, but once I found her, boy, did she make a difference to my life. She really, sometimes she calls me the C word, and she said, if I go and I tell her, because you know what I'm doing, you know what she said? She told me, you're a real cunt. I was like, shit, okay. But the fact that she told me that made me trust exactly in her opinion of that when I was telling her something, she wasn't going to tell me I was right. If I was right, I was right. If I was wrong, I was wrong. If I had a question on how to deal with something, she told me, she set me straight. So go to therapy. We all need it. And the one thing that you must also realize is that the only person that you ever have control over is yourself. You can't blame your parents forever for the way you are. Once you're 18, you're an adult. You're responsible for yourself. You need therapy to deal with your past. You need therapy on how to get through your relationships. So go to therapy. And also be very careful on how you speak to yourself. So if you tell yourself, what an idiot you are, why did you do that? If you're telling yourself negative things, then you are programming your head negatively. So be very careful how you speak to yourself. Now, in that conversation with Trudy, one of the things that I did remember whilst I was still panicking about the clicker, she said, you know, you need to leave the audience with a golden nugget. So I thought, okay, so what's the golden nugget? And point number 5 is my golden nugget. And point number 5, lesson number 5 is surround yourself with a few good people. And from this, what I want to say to you is that the quality of your relationships determines the quality of your life. Be it your family, be it your friends, be it your partners, your relationships. The quality of these relationships determine the quality of your life. If your relationships are happy, then your life is happy. If your relationships are shit, then your life is going to be just a little bit shit. If you're going home to a bad situation, you're going home to a situation that you aren't loved, you aren't respected, that you're not happy in, you're going to spend all day dreading going home. You're going to be miserable, you're going to be unhappy. If you're in a relationship where you don't feel loved or respected, your self-esteem is lowered. So when you really, really think about it, and I want this to really be the golden nugget that you take away from my 5 lessons, is that the quality of your relationships determine the quality of your life. And that is the single most important lesson that you can learn. Surround yourself with a few good people. You don't need a lot. People who love you, people that you love, people that make you happy, people that tell you that they love you, people that tell you that they are proud of you, because this makes you a stronger, better, happier person. And that's the end of my talk.
Just go with the vibe.